In our school, we picture the philosopher's goal more or less as follows. Bring the will in line with events so that nothing happens contrary to our wishes and, conversely, nothing fails to happen that we want to happen. Pursue it, and the reward is that neither desire nor aversion will fail in their aims, and we will fill all our roles in society without conflict, fear or rancour. Epictetus. What do you wish for in life? What desires do you hold that you want to satisfy? Good health, financial success, or maybe success in love? How about what you want to avoid in life? Pain and sickness, heartbreak or poverty? All of us in life have our desires and aversions, things we lust for and others that we loathe. We live in a society that encourages desire and avoidance, that happiness comes from the latest mobile phone, or that shiny new SUV will ensure fun family trips away with smiles on everyone's faces. And we try to avoid things that we can't avoid, from the common cold through to severe injury and sickness, people letting us down, delays and disappointments, and even death. These things or events we want and the ones we don't, our desires and aversions, can be a leading cause of frustration and angst in our lives. If we don't handle them properly, this can be crippling to many, causing despair and leaving us feeling helpless and lacking control. When we are denied our wants or experience something we'd rather not, we're often quick to blame, be it others or circumstance, making us feel as though we are powerless to maintain our own happiness. Is there a way we can reduce or even eliminate these feelings? There will always be things or events in our lives that don't go our way, just as most likely there will always be the things that we desire but are out of our reach or not in our power to attain. Are we therefore powerless to change this? Stoicism would tell us no, that we do have the power to change it, and in today's episode, I'll show you how, through the teachings of some of the Stoic greats, backed up with my own experiences. In 1997, at the age of 22 years old, I found myself in a position where I would need to learn how to handle my desires and aversions before they ended up handling me. Less than 2 weeks after my 22nd birthday, I was given news that would leave most people wishing for change, wishing the clock could be turned back. Lying in my hospital bed, my room filled with family and friends, I was told by the 2 surgeons who had worked on me a few days earlier that I would now live the rest of my life with severe chronic pain and a paralysed arm and hand. Now here we are in early 2026, almost 29 years after I received that news. My surgeons so far have been 100% on the money. My arm and hand do not function any longer, and I do live with severe unending pain. It would be understandable to think that living this way must be frustrating and would leave me feeling like I don't have control. While there were times I felt this way, I taught myself how to change that. And later, when I became aware of Stoicism, I saw what I had discovered on my journey reflected back at me from 2,000 years ago. Through Epictetus, one of the best-known Stoic philosophers, we are taught that true freedom comes from having our will in accordance with nature. We often can't control events in our lives, but we always have control over what we make of them. When we want something that is out of our reach, and equally, when we try to avoid things we'd rather not experience, we are going against nature, leaving us often distraught, frustrated, and even angry. Most people instantly assume that I want to change my situation, that living with only one working arm and severe pain must be frustrating and horrific. I've been told a countless number of times that I must wish I had both my arms working and didn't live with constant, crushing, burning, stabbing, searing pain. They assume that if I could go back in time to change it all, I would. But I don't, and I wouldn't. There is no desire to change any of this, not back in time, not right now, and no, not even in the future. I can go as far as saying I actually choose to have this injury. I choose to have only one arm, and I choose to be in this pain. This approach is received by many with shock and disbelief, sometimes even anger and accusations that I can't be in that much pain if I choose to have it. I'm not here to convince anyone of the severity of my situation, but rest assured, with 5 main nerve trunks torn out of my spinal cord, I am in severe unending pain. Still, I choose this. Maybe you can already begin to understand my reasoning. Maybe not, so let me explain. Imagine yourself in an adverse situation you cannot change. In fact, no one can change it. There is no one coming to help you. It won't get better with time. This is your new reality, like it or not. Some people try to ease your burden, and while it is appreciated, it really makes no difference to where you are. What would you choose to do in this situation? Fight it? Try to run from it? Accept it? Would you choose it? Well, that's where I've been for the past 29 years. Would you spend your time wishing things were different, wishing that someone would come help you? Would you fight against it in a battle that you always lose? Would you try to futilely avoid it, wasting precious energy? Maybe you would, because I have seen firsthand numerous people in situations they can't change do exactly that. I mean, I've done it, and I'm sure you have too. I do not wish that my arm worked, nor do I wish that I didn't live with pain. These two statements are almost always met with disbelief when I mention them. Nor do I try to avoid my pain or situations where only one arm makes life challenging, because with one arm there will always be challenges. It wasn't always this way for me though. At the time of the accident, while I was very accepting of what had happened to my arm and I was quite thankful that my spinal cord injury only took the use of one limb, dealing with the pain wasn't quite as straightforward. I spent the first 2 years continually fighting my pain, wishing that it could be stopped or even reduced. I was on a course of 35 pills a day to help with this fight. And every wish I made in those 2 years was never answered the way I wanted it. I'd still wake in tremendous pain, go about my day as best I could, and try to go back to sleep in the same, at times, overwhelming pain. Wishing it was different or that it was gone was causing me to focus on the problem. It was tying me tighter and closer to what was troubling me. When we try to move away from something, this is a fear-based response. I'd get anxiety over what my day held for me, and I'd end up choosing frustration because nothing was changing. My desire for something I couldn't have was consuming me. So how did I change this? How did I get rid of the frustration and angst I was clinging to? I gave up wishing for my pain to be gone and for my arm to work again. Now, to some, that might sound like I was giving up hope, but instead it gave me more hope. There was nothing that could be done to get this arm working again, to make the pain disappear. There never was hope down that path, but there was from acceptance of what nature had delivered to me. More than just acceptance, though, embracing, loving, and choosing. Again, as I've mentioned in every video, it's vital that we know and understand what we can control and what we can't, and the power that knowledge gives us. For those that don't know where Stoicism draws this line, the only thing in our control is our will, how we reason with events, how we act, how we think, and how we respond. Everything else, from our own body, our family, weather, our job, other people, all these and anything else you care to name are not in our control. I cannot control whether I get the use of my arm back or not, nor whether I'm in pain, but I am in control of how I respond. Wishing for my arm to work and my pain to be eliminated is a surefire path to disappointment. What are you wishing for that you'll never get? How does that leave you feeling? Freedom and happiness for me obviously weren't attained by having my desires satisfied. Instead, I achieved them by curbing my desire to have the pain gone and have my arm working again. This is an actual quote from the Stoic philosopher Epictetus in action. Freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by eliminating it. When I first began learning about Stoicism only a few years ago, after being called Stoic for so long, I saw that this philosophy taught that limiting our desires rather than attaining them was the path towards freedom, and it was then that I knew my decisions, my way of thinking, was on point. Does this mean we eliminate desire completely though? Is that even possible? Stoic philosophers like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and Epictetus all warn of the dangers of uncurbed desire and do go as far as suggesting we eliminate it completely if we're not strong of mind. If we are strong in our convictions and can keep our desire under control, we are advised to limit it to things we already have. However, even that is not without risk, as Marcus warns himself over craving the things he already has, to not feel such satisfaction that he starts to overvalue them to the point he would be upset to lose them. Seneca, in Letters from a Stoic, tells his friend that it is in no man's power to have whatever he wants, but that it is within his power not to wish for what he hasn't got, and to cheerfully make the most of things that do come his way. Epictetus tells his students not to hope that events turn out the way they want, but instead the path to peace is found in welcoming events in whichever way they happen. If I don't wish for my injury to be fixed, does this mean that I desire to be in pain and be crippled? Not at all. I only welcome whatever it is that comes my way. If I didn't look at it like this, then if by some miracle of sorts my injury was fixed, my desire to be in pain would no longer be satisfied. In this context, I have completely eliminated desire, which eliminates any disappointment or frustration. So how can we keep our desires in check and only avoid what we can? Well, no one is going to argue that when it comes to desire, we reserve that for the things we think will be good for us. Conversely, we seek to avoid things that we consider to be bad for us. We might see that promotion at work as being good, or that demotion as being bad. This, however, is playing a dangerous game. That promotion or demotion is out of our control. They are, as Epictetus refers to things outside our will, externals. Placing the value of good and bad into externals is allowing our happiness to be dictated by things we cannot control. So where do we place it? Consider your health. Most people desire good health. They make efforts to eat properly, to exercise regularly, and to take care of their bodies. Does this exclude them from becoming ill? Definitely not. So, what happens when your good health disappears? Can you be happy without this good? No. We all know people who are far from happy because they are unwell. We've most likely felt this way too. Stoicism tells us that good and bad exist solely within us through our actions, our reactions, our thoughts and opinions. Good health is not necessarily good for us, just as bad health isn't always bad for us. Good health has enabled many tyrants to exert their power over thousands. Good health allows people to be violent and abusive. Many who have been through bad health have become better versions of themselves, have inspired and helped others with their struggles, have found greater peace within themselves. You're listening to one of them right now. Our desires can also make us a slave to them or to those who hold the access to them. Take, for example, that promotion at work you've been chasing. You'll have to make sure that the person or people who can decide your fate favour you, maybe by cozying up to them or praising them even when you don't think they deserve it. You'll be harming yourself by behaving like this just to please another person so they can unlock what you desire. Our lust for something can cause us to choose to act in ways that are dishonourable. It can also be said that when we attach our desires to things outside our control, that we may end up with the opposite. For example, the desire for wealth can make us act in unscrupulous ways that could actually ensure that we remain trapped in poverty. If we truly desire what is good, then the only desire we should have is the one to keep our will in alignment with what nature brings us. If we achieve this, then no matter what comes our way or what doesn't, we will always be free and happy. Epictetus does provide us with one way of setting our sights on a goal, however, that enables us to both want something but keep our will in alignment with nature. Whenever planning an action, mentally rehearse what the plan entails. Using the promotion example again, picture yourself working hard, your colleagues doing the same. People may be spreading scandal about you to eliminate you from the running, and tell yourself, I want the promotion, but at the same time, I want to keep my will in alignment with nature. That way, he tells us, you will have ready the thought if you don't get the promotion. Well, this was not my only intention. I also meant to keep my will in alignment with nature, which is impossible if I go all to pieces. When we have disdain for external goods, we remove any opening for a rational, intemperate, and impulsive form of desire. With such an attitude towards things, we can no longer be intimidated by anyone, nor have any masters over us. Epictetus tells us that it's not the events in life that trouble us, rather our thoughts and opinions surrounding them. Evidence of this is clear to see when we recognise that two people can have completely different reactions to the same event. One person may hate being out in the rain, feeling miserable and unlucky. Another dances with joy in the rain, feeling alive and blessed. Same situation, different thoughts and opinions. If we find ourselves outside, we cannot avoid the rain, but we can avoid feeling angry or miserable about it. In other words, externals don't decide what they mean to us. We determine that through our decisions. To quote Marcus Aurelius, things wait outside for us, hover at the door. They keep to themselves. Ask them who they are and they don't know. They can give no account of themselves. What accounts for them? The mind does. Injury, sickness, heartbreak, financial difficulties, even death. None of these can give an account of themselves. They all have different meanings and different outcomes to different people. One person might struggle with injury where another excels. Another person may fear death while another welcomes it. In Discourses, a collection of Epictetus's lectures, Epictetus is quoted as saying the following, I must die, but must I die bawling? I must be put in chains, but moaning and groaning too? I must be exiled, but is there anything to keep me from going with a smile, calm and self-composed? There are certain things in this life that we simply cannot avoid, yet we still try to do so. Often this is due to fear. Many people will tell you that they fear dying, yet death is a part of the contract of life. It is unavoidable, and as I mentioned, for some, it is welcomed. Maybe due to old age or disease, maybe to save another's life, or maybe for their country. So death, which cannot account for itself, is not something to fear. What we should fear is the fear of dying, which is based on our opinions and thoughts surrounding our passing. Remember Epictetus's words, it's not the events in life that trouble us, it's our thoughts and opinions around them that do. Stoicism teaches us to only avoid what is within our moral sphere, what we can control. Stoicism tells us that the only thing within our control is our will, so we can only truly avoid what we think, how we react, and how we act. We can't avoid death, we can't avoid pain, and we can't avoid other people. But we can avoid harming ourselves in how we reason with these events, these impressions. I cannot avoid my pain, nor can I avoid having a paralysed arm. What I can avoid, though, is complaining about it. I can avoid letting it hold me back. I can avoid feeling angry about it. I can avoid harming myself with these negative responses. The event, the impression, is out of my control, but the way I process it isn't. If you commute via car to work during the busiest times of the day in a busy city, you will know you can't avoid other traffic. We might try to by leaving earlier or ducking down some side streets, but we're not the only ones to try doing that. Invariably, we will encounter other traffic. It's for the most part unavoidable. We sit there in our car, looking at the clock, feeling frustrated as we watch the minutes tick by, and we've hardly moved a few metres. While the initial impression we might get is annoyance at the slow rate of travel, we are not forced to hold on to that impression, but many of us choose to, and we're the ones to pay the price for that. Holding on to that anger, if we're not careful, will also affect others with our anger during our day. Instead, we can accept that the traffic is not something we can control, not something we can avoid, and instead avoid feeling frustrated about it. I've done it myself, and it turns my entire experience around. Gone is the anger, gone is the impatience, the wasted mental energy wishing that the traffic would suddenly get out of my way. Instead, I find peace and tranquility. I feel a burden lifting from my shoulders and a smile on my face replacing the frown. Yes, I might arrive late at my destination, but that was always going to happen regardless of whether I pounded the steering wheel with my fist or I tapped my fingers to the beat of the song I'm listening to. The real difference is in my mood. Better to be late and at peace rather than still being late and in a foul state of mind. Without this acceptance of what nature delivers to us, we will continue to experience things in life we don't want to. Traffic, sickness, injury, other people, disputes, pain, whatever you care to mention. And we will be left frustrated and resentful because of this. This is not the path to freedom and happiness, to peace and tranquility, no matter how much we kick and scream. Instead, if we focus on only avoiding what is in our control, we can learn to embrace whatever comes our way with none of these negative and harmful feelings. My ability to embrace what nature delivered to me with my injury, an injury that has broken many others, has shown me the power of this technique. Desire and aversion, as I said at the beginning of this video, if left unchecked and not regulated, can be a major cause of frustration and angst in our lives. When we place importance or value on externals to our will, we make ourselves subject to whoever controls them. We become slaves to these desires and aversions. Desire for externals can also be unlimited, therefore impossible to satisfy. Without changing where we place value in good and bad, we still look at wealth as something to be valued, and therefore never have enough. Still seek higher office and be resentful when so-and-so gets promoted. Your ambition will be running at such a pace that if anyone is ahead of you, you'll think you're coming last. These words are lifted directly from one of Seneca's letters and are so important. Through desire and greed, we have created for ourselves our own troubles. Bigger houses, flashy clothing, and extravagant food. All this, yet nature provides these very things, in basic form, yes, but without the worries and troubles our desires create. We worry someone will be attracted to our expensive home and break in and steal from us. We sacrifice time with our families to work longer and harder, to buy expensive clothing and cars, just to impress people we don't even know. It's okay to want these things if that's your goal, but be prepared to face the consequences of these pursuits. Our desires can cause us to become people we don't want to be, angry because our sports team didn't win the final, devious in our actions to be recognised before others. Our aversions can cause us to experience things we don't want to experience, leaving us broken-hearted, distraught and devastated. Desire for externals often cannot be satisfied, not even when we attain them. They don't satisfy the underlying itch, and we begin chasing greater desires. Eliminating them, however, takes away the need to scratch that itch. Trying to avoid what we can't control leaves us prone to suffering, whereas avoiding what we can, complaints and dissatisfaction, moans and groans, leaves us feeling at peace and ease. To hold on to these complaints, these moans and groans, does the complete opposite. As Epictetus tells us, they only add to our burden. Most of us are looking for the path to greater peace and happiness in life, greater freedom. Often we think we can achieve this through wanting more and avoiding experiences we don't want. But this is rarely, if ever, the case. As I've shown you today, these desires and aversions can be our ruin. With a little Stoic knowledge, though, we can start to see where the true path to happiness and freedom lies, the path that brings our will in line with nature. The only question that remains is it a path that you desire enough? Share with us in the comments how desire and aversion have affected your life and what costs have come with them. Remember to like, subscribe and share. It will really help a small channel like this reach a wider audience, and that might just help someone truly in need, and you might have played your part in that. As always, remember to make good out of whatever comes your way. I look forward to seeing you next time.